Hello, welcome to Bible Study Time and welcome to my Quiet Time Bible Study. This is the time where I invite you to come and join me in the comfort of my prayer room where we discuss different topics to do with the Most High Creator God, the God of all gods, the God of all spirits. And this week we are continuing reading through the book of Jasher. Last week we left off in chapter number 5. As I was going through the different sons of Noah, there was a typo, so it's Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And you know, as I mentioned, there have been a few discrepancies which I will address as we sort of move further along in the book. But without further ado, let's get into it because I'd like to cover 3 chapters so that we can cover a whole subject this week because we're introduced to Noah's sons. We're also going to be introduced to Nimrod and also Abram, okay? Abraham. But before he was Abraham, he was Abram. So for those of you who have this book, a handful of you have mentioned that you do, I'm going to be on page 327 in chapter 6, and it is the complete 54 book Apocrypha. Okay, guys? So let's get right into it. Okay? My little light here, sun is going down. Beginning in chapter 6, verse 1. Oops, maybe I should put my glasses on. That'd be a good idea. I was wondering why it was a bit blurry. So, chapter 6, verse number 1. And at that time, after the death of Methuselah, the Lord said to Noah, "Go you and your household into the ark. Behold, I will gather all the animals of the earth to you, the beasts of the field and the birds of the air. And they will all come and surround the ark, and you will go and seat yourself by the doors of the ark, and all the beasts, the animals, and the birds will assemble and place themselves before you. And such of them as will come and crouch before you, you will take and deliver into the hands of your sons, who will bring them to the ark. And all that will stand before you will leave." And the Lord brought this about on the next day, and the animals, beasts, and birds came in great multitudes and surrounded the ark. And Noah went and seated himself by the door of the ark, and of all flesh that crouched before him he brought into the ark, and all that stood before him he left on the earth. And a lioness came with her 2 whelps, male and female, and the 3 crouched before Noah. And the 2 whelps rose up against the lioness and struck her and made her flee from her place. And she went away. And they returned to their places and crouched on the earth before Noah. And the lioness ran away and stood in the place of the lions. And Noah saw this and wondered greatly. And he rose and took the 2 whelps and brought them into the ark. And Noah brought into the ark from all living creatures that were on the earth, so that there was none left except which Noah brought into the ark. 2 and 2 they came to Noah into the ark. But from the clean animals and clean birds he brought 7 couples, as God commanded him. And all the animals and beasts and birds were still there, and they surrounded the ark at every place. And the rain had not descended until 7 days after. And on that day the Lord caused the whole earth to shake, and the sun darkened, and the foundations of the world raged, and the whole earth was moved violently, and the lightning flashed, and the thunder roared, and all the foundations in the earth were broken up, such as was not known to the inhabitants before. And God did this mighty act in order to terrify the sons of men, that they might no longer be evil on the earth. And still the sons of men would not return from their evil ways, and they increased the anger of the Lord at that time, and did not even direct their hearts to all this. And at the end of 7 days, in the 600th year of the life of Noah, the waters of the flood were on the earth. And all the foundations of the deep were broken up, and the windows of the heaven were open, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And Noah and his household and all the living creatures that were with him came into the ark on account of the waters of the flood, and the Lord shut him in. And all the sons of men that were left on the earth became exhausted through evil on account of the rain, for the waters were coming more violently on the earth, and the animals and beasts were still surrounding the ark. And the sons of men assembled together, about 700,000, men and women, and they came to Noah at the ark. And they called to Noah, saying, Open for us, that we may come to you in the ark. And why will we die? And Noah answered them with a loud voice from the ark, saying, Have you not all rebelled against the Lord, and said that he does not exist? And therefore the Lord brought this calamity on you to destroy and cut you off from the face of the earth. Is this not the thing that I spoke to you of 120 years back? And you would not listen to the voice of the Lord, and now you desire to live on earth? And they said to Noah, We are ready to return to the Lord. Only open for us that we may live and not die. And Noah answered them, saying, Behold, now that you see the trouble of your souls, you wish to return to the Lord. Why did you not return during these 120 years, which the Lord granted you as the determined period? But now you come and tell me on this account of the troubles of your soul? Now also the Lord will not listen to you, neither will he give ear to you on this day, so that you will not now succeed in your wishes. And the sons of men approached in order to break into the ark, to come in on account of the rain, for they could not bear the rain on them. And the Lord sent all the beasts and animals that stood around the ark, and the beasts overpowered them and drove them from that place. And every man went his way, and they again scattered themselves on the face of the earth. And the rain was still descending on the earth, and it descended 40 days and 40 nights, and the waters prevailed greatly on the earth. And all flesh that was on the earth or in the waters died, wherein men, whether men, animals, beasts, creeping things, or birds of the air. And there only remained Noah and those that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed, and they greatly increased on the earth, and they lifted up the ark, and it was raised from the earth. And the ark floated on the face of the waters, and it was tossed on the waters, so that all living creatures within were turned about like stew in a cauldron. And great anxiety seized all the living creatures that were in the ark, and the ark was likely to be broken. And all the living creatures were in the ark, and they were terrified. And the lions roared, and the oxen lowed, and the wolves howled, and every living creature in the ark spoke and lamented in its own language, so that their voices reached to a great distance. And Noah and his sons cried and wept in their troubles. They were greatly afraid that they had reached the gates of death. And Noah prayed to the Lord and cried to him on account of this, and said, O Lord, help us, for we have no strength to bear this calamity that has encompassed us. For the waves of the waters have surrounded us. Mischievous torrents have terrified us. The snares of death have come before us. Answer us, O Lord, answer us. Light up your countenance toward us, and be gracious to us. Redeem us and deliver us. And the Lord listened to the voice of Noah, and the Lord remembered him. And a wind passed over the earth, and the waters were still, and the ark rested. And the fountains of the deep and the windows of the heaven were stopped, and the rain from the heavens was restrained. And the waters decreased in those days, and the ark rested on the mountain of Ararat. And Noah then opened the window of the ark, and Noah still called out to the Lord at this time, and he said, O Lord, who formed the earth and all the heavens and all that are therein, bring our souls out from this confinement and from the prison wherein you have placed us, for I am very wearied and sighing. And the Lord listened to the voice of Noah and said to him, When you will have completed a full year, you will then go out. And at the revolution of the year, when a full year was completed, to Noah's dwelling in the ark, the waters were dried from off the earth, and Noah put off the covering of the ark. And at that time, on the 27th day of the second month, the earth was dry. But Noah and his sons and those that were with him did not go out from the ark until the Lord told them. And they came that day, and it came to that day when the Lord told them to go out. And they all went out from the ark. And they went and returned everyone to his way and to his place. And Noah and his sons dwelt in the land that God had told them. And they served the Lord all of their days. And the Lord blessed Noah and his sons on their going out from the ark. And he told them, be fruitful and fill all the earth, become strong and increase abundantly in the earth and multiply therein. Moving on to chapter number 7, and I'm going to apologize in advance for any mispronunciation of any names. Chapter 7, verse 1. And these are the names of the sons of Noah: Japheth, Ham, and Shem. And children were born to them after the flood, for they had taken wives before the flood. These are the names of the sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiran, 7 sons. And the sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Rephus, and Terugama. And the sons of Magog were Elionaph, Lubal. And the sons of Madai were Acon, Zelo, Chazi, and Lot. And the sons of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Chittim, and Dudonim. And the sons of Tubal were Ariphi, Kesed, and Terai. And the sons of Meshach were Didon, Zaron, and Shebshani. And the sons of Taras were Benib, Gera, Luprion, and Galak. These are the sons of Japheth according to the families, and their numbers in those days were about 460 men. And these are the sons of Ham: Cush, Mizrahim, Phut, and Canaan, 4 sons. And the sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rema, Sachicha. And the sons of Rema were Sheba and Dedan. And the sons of Mizrahim were Lud, Anon, and Pathos, Chasloth, and Chaptor. And the sons of Phut were Gibal, Hidan, Bina, and Adan. And the sons of Canaan were Zidon, Heth, Amori, Girgashi, Hivi, Arki, Senai, Ardoni, Zimodi, and Chimothi. These are the sons of Ham according to their families, and their numbers in those days were about 730 men. And these are the sons of Shem: Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram, 5 sons. And the sons of Elam were Shushan, Machul, and Harmon. And the sons of Ashur were Miras and Mokil. And the sons of Arphaxad were Salah, and Nar, and Ashkal. And the sons of Lud were Pethor and Bezayon. And the sons of Aaron were Uz, Chul, Gather, and Mash. These are the sons of Shem according to their families, and their numbers in those days were about 300 men. These are the generations of Shem. Shem begot Arphaxad, and Arphaxad begot Salah. And Salah begat Eber, and 2 children were born to Eber. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the sons of men were divided, and in the latter days the earth was divided. And the name of the second son was Yoktan, meaning that in his day the lives of the sons of men were diminished and lessened. These are the sons of Yoktan: Almodad, Shelaph, Sharzomuz, Yerach, Haduron, Ozel, Dikal, Obal, Abimiel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these are the sons of Yoktan, and his brother Peleg begot Yen. Yen begot Serug, and Serug begot Nahor, and Nahor begot Terah. And Terah was 38 years old, and he begot Haran and Nahor. And Cush, the son of Ham, the son of Noah, took a wife in those days in his old age, and she bore a son, and they called his name Nimrod, saying, at that time the sons of men again began to rebel and transgress against God. And the child grew up, and his father loved him exceedingly, for he was the son of his old age. And the garments of skin which God made for Adam and his wife were given to Cush. For after the death of Adam and his wife, the garments were given to Enoch, the son of Jared. And when Enoch was taken up to God, he gave them to his son Methuselah. And at the death of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them to the ark. And they were with him until he went out of the ark. And in their going out, Ham stole these garments from his father Noah. And he took them and hid them from his brothers. And when Ham begot his firstborn Cush, he gave him the garments in secret, and they were with Cush for many days. And Cush also concealed them from his sons and brothers. And when Cush had begotten Nimrod, he gave him those garments through his love for him. And Nimrod grew up, and when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments. And Nimrod became strong when he put on those garments, and God gave him might and strength. And he was a mighty hunter in the earth. Yes, he was a mighty hunter in the field, and he hunted the animals. And he built altars, and he offered the animals on them before the Lord. And Nimrod strengthened himself, and he rose up from among his brothers, and he fought the battles of his brothers against all their surrounding enemies. And the Lord delivered all the enemies of his brothers into the hands of Nimrod, and God prospered him from time to time in his battles, and he reigned on the earth. Therefore it became current in those days, when a man ushered out those that he had trained up for battle, he would say to them, like God did to Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter in the earth, and who succeeded in the battles that prevailed against his brothers, that he delivered them from the hands of their enemies. So may God strengthen us and deliver us this day. And when Nimrod was 40 years old, at that time there was a war between his brothers and the children of Japheth, so that they were in the power of their enemies. And Nimrod went out at this time, and he assembled all the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men. And he hired also from some of his friends and acquaintances about 80 men. And he gave them hire, and he went with them to battle. And when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people that went with him. And he said to them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for all our enemies will be delivered into our hands, and you may do with them as you please. And all the men that went were about 500, and they fought against their enemies, and they destroyed them and subdued them. And Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places, and he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brothers. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him turned homeward. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle, after having conquered his enemies, and his brothers, together with those who knew him before, assembled to make him king over them, and they placed the regal crown on his head. And they set over his subjects and people princes, judges, and rulers, as is the custom among kings. And he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of his host, and he dignified him and elevated him above all princes. And while he was reigning according to his heart's desire, after having conquered all his surrounding enemies, he advised with his counselors to build a city for his palace, and they did so. And they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large, extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of the city that he built Shinar, for the Lord had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies, and he subdued them, and he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great. And all the nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him. And they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings, and he became their Lord and King. And they all dwelt with him in the city at Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel, and all the earth was of one tongue, and the words of union. But Nimrod did not go in the ways of the Lord before him from the days of the flood until those days. And he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them, and he rebelled against the Lord, and taught his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways. And his son Mardon was wicked, more wicked than his father. And everyone that heard of the acts of Mardon, the son of Nimrod, would say concerning him, from the wicked goes out wickedness. Therefore it became a proverb in the whole earth, saying, from the wicked goes out wickedness. And it was current in the words of men from that time to this. And Terah the son of Nahor, prince of Nimrod's host, was in those days very great in the sight of the king and his subjects. And the king and the princes loved him, and they elevated him very high. And Terah took a wife, and her name was, let me repeat that, and Terah took a wife, and her name was Amhelo, the daughter of Cornebo. And the wife of Terah conceived and bore him a son in those days. Terah was 70 years old when he begot him. And Terah called the name of his son that was born to him Abram, because the king had raised him in those days and dignified him above all his princes that were with him. Continuing on to chapter number 8. And it was during that time, during the night that Abram was born, that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah, and they rejoiced with him on that night. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward the heavens that night to look at the stars. And they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens. And he swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight. And the sages understood this matter, and they knew its meaning. And they said to each other, this only signifies the child that has been born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, he and his children forever, and he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night. And in the morning, all these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will slay us. He will slay us. He will say, why have you concealed this matter from me? And then we will suffer death. Therefore, now let us go and tell the king the sight which he saw and the interpretation thereof, and we will then remain clear. And they did so. And they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground. And they said, may the king live, may the king live. We heard that a son was born to Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of your host. And last night we came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when your servants went from the house of Terah to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to the heavens, and we saw a great star coming from the east. And the same star ran with great speed and swallowed up 4 great stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And your servants were astonished at the sight which we saw, and were greatly terrified. And we made our judgment on the sight, and knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applies to the child that is born to Terah, who will grow up and multiply greatly and become powerful and kill all the kings of the earth and inherit all their lands, he and his seed forever. And now, our Lord and King, behold, we have truly acquainted you with what we have seen concerning this child. If it seems good to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he will grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through his evil. And the king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight. And he sent and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. And the king said to Terah, I have been told that a son was born to you last night, and after this manner was observed in the heavens at his birth. And now therefore give me this child, that we may slay him before his evil springs up against us, and I will give you for his value your house full of silver and gold. And Terah answered the king and said to him, My lord and king, I have heard your words, and your servant will do all that the king desires. But my lord and king, I will tell you what happened to me last night, that I may see what advice the king will give his servant. And then I will answer the king on what he has just spoken. And the king said, Speak. And Terah said to him, Aon, son of Mored, came to me last night, saying, Give to me the great and beautiful horse that the king gave you, and I will give you silver and gold and straw and provender for its value. And I said to him, Wait until I see the king concerning your words, and behold, whatever the king says, that I will do. And now, my lord and king, behold, I have made this thing known to you, and the advice which my king will give to his servant, that I will follow. And the king heard the words of Terah, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the manner of a fool. And the king answered Terah and said to him, Are you so silly, ignorant, or deficient in understanding to do this thing, to give your beautiful horse for silver and gold, or even for straw and provender? Are you so short of silver and gold that you should do this thing because you cannot obtain straw and provender to feed your horse? And what is silver and gold to you, or straw and provender, that you should give away that fine horse which I gave you, like which there is none to be had on the whole earth? And the king left off speaking, and Terah answered the king, saying, Like to this the king has spoken to his servant. I implore you, my lord and king, what is this which you say to me, saying, Give me your son, that we may slay him, and I will give you silver and gold for his value? What will I do with silver and gold after the death of my son? Who will inherit me? Surely then at my death the silver and gold will return to my king who gave it. And when the king heard the words of Terah and the allegory which he brought concerning the king, it grieved him greatly, and he was vexed at this thing, and his anger burned within him. And Terah saw that the anger of the king was kindled against him, and he answered the king, saying, All that I have is in the king's power. Whatever the king desires to do to his servant, that let him do. Yes, even my son, he is in the king's power, without value in exchange, he and his two brothers that are older than he. And the king said to Terah, No, but I will purchase your younger son for a price. And Terah answered the king, saying, I implore you, my lord, to let your servant speak a word before you, and let the king hear the word of your servant. And Terah said, Let my king give me 3 days' time until I consider this matter within myself and consult with my family concerning the words of my king. And he pressed the king greatly to agree to this. And the king listened to Terah, and he did so, and he gave him 3 days' time. And Terah went out from his house, out from the king's presence, and he came home to his family and spoke to them all the words of the king. And the people were greatly afraid. And it was in the 3rd day that the king sent to Terah, saying, Send me your son for a price, as I spoke to you. And should you not do this, I will send and slay all you have in your house, so that you will not even have a dog remaining. And Terah hastened, as the thing was urgent from the king, and he took a child from one of his servants, which his handmaid had borne to him that day, and Terah brought the child to the king and received value for him. And the Lord was with Terah in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Abram's death. And the king took the child from Terah and dashed his head to the ground with all his might, for he thought it had been Abram. And this was concealed from him from that day, and it was forgotten by the king, as it was the will of providence not to permit Abram's death. And Terah took his son Abram secretly together with his mother and nurse, and he concealed them in a cave, and he brought them their provisions monthly. And the Lord was with Abram in the cave, and he grew up, and Abram was in the cave 10 years. And the king and his princes, soothsayers, and sages thought that the king had killed Abram. And this brings me to the end of chapter number 8. A lot to unpack. I'm so looking forward to it. And I do recognize that I am reading a little bit quickly for those of you who might be in an older demographic who have mentioned that to me. I just want to mention that there is an option for you to slow down the videos on YouTube. So if I'm reading too fast for you, you can slow the videos down. And I'm so grateful to the Most High Creator God for all his wonderful blessings. I'm so grateful for him, especially for what he's done for my beautiful daughter. I love you, Nishi. As I previously mentioned, there are videos that have been created that will be uploaded twice a week up until the new year beginning next week. I want to invite you to continue to join me on my journey of spiritual growth. And before I say goodbye, I want to remind you that the Most High Creator God, the God of all gods, the God of all spirits, loves all of his children.